What is protein synthesis? How can the genes in the DNA be translated into proteins? Let's begin with our examples. What body parts are pointed at? So what is this? This is our hair. And how about this one? Alright, so these are the nails. Did you know that our hair, our skin, and our nails are made up of proteins? Yes, you're right. Now, so what are proteins? Did you know that proteins, they are composed of amino acids linked together by peptide bonds? And what are the roles and functions of proteins? Yan ang pag-aaralan natin sa video lesson na ito. Hello my dear students! Welcome back to my YouTube channel. This is me once again, Teacher Tin, your science teacher for today. So if you are new to this channel, do not forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell for more updates in Science 10. Hello once again my dear students! So ito na naman tayo sa panibago nating vlog for today. So welcome to my YouTube channel and welcome of course to Science 10 Quarter 3 Module 4 of our lesson for today. So dito na naman tayo para gumawa ng another lesson vlog. And for today's lesson, we will be discussing about the protein synthesis. Alright, so I will leave this quote according to Kenneth R. Miller. He said that our own genomes carry the story of evolution, written in the DNA, the language of molecular genetics, and the narrative is unmistakable. Alright, so ano ba sinasabi sa quotation na to? So this quote, it only reflects the importance of studying the DNA. Ano ba pag sinabi nating DNA? So we call it as the deoxyribonucleic acid. And of course, sabi nga natin, this quote, it only reflects the importance of studying the DNA and of course the genetics. Alright, so in this lesson vlog, you are going to learn about the what we call the protein synthesis. So ano ba yung pumapasok sa isip nyo kapag na-encounter nyo yung term na protein? Anong ibig sabihin ng protein? Alright, so you might be thinking of food like the egg, chicken, fish. Alright, tama naman lahat yun. Ano? So, all of this food contains proteins because proteins are one of the biomolecules inside the cells. Alright, so, and of course, they are composed of number of structures and perform various functions inside the cells. At gaano nga ba kahalaga ang proteins? Of course, without the proteins, the cells cannot perform certain processes. And of course, kung kulang tayo sa protina, sa Tagalog ay protina, these proteins, kung wala tayo niyan, kung kulang tayo niyan, it may lead to death. Kaya nga kailangan, dapat tama lang yung protein, hindi sobra, hindi kulang. So, dapat balance lang. Alright? So, the cells are constantly making new proteins and these are required as required by our body. And, paano nga ba na-accomplish yung pagkuha or pag-produce or para magkaroon tayo ng mga proteins? Ano yung process na ginagawa or nangyayari? Alright, so this is what we call, or this is accomplished through the process that we call the protein synthesis, which is the topic that we will be discussing for this video lesson. Alright, so ang tanong, how is protein made? Paano nga ba nagkakaroon ng protina? What makes up the proteins? Alright, so in this vlog, this will introduce you to the structures in the cells, anong meron sa mga cells natin, ano yung mga processes na kinakailangan in making proteins. Alright, so I hope you are going to have fun while learning about this lesson vlog. At of course, ipapaliwanag natin yan ng mas maliwanag at mas maiintindihan nyo. Sana ay may matutunan kayo ulit sa lesson vlog na ito. And of course, after completing this lesson vlog, syempre we will be discussing and we will be explaining how the protein is made using information from the DNA or the deoxyribonucleic acid. Alright? Alright, question. What are proteins? Again, when we say proteins, they are composed of amino acids linked together by peptide bonds. And what are the roles and functions of proteins? So there are lots of functions and there are lots of roles of the proteins. So first is, they are the channels in the membrane. So ano ibig sabihin pag sinabi natin they are channels in membranes? Channel in membranes means that they control the movement of molecules in and out of the cell. O isipin nyo, sila yung may control sa paggalaw ng mga molecules papunta at palabas ng ating mga cells, 'di ba? 'Di ba sabi natin ang cells, this is the building block of our body. And of course, we another role and functions of proteins, so they are structural molecules, which means, for example, for making up of hair, muscles in the animals. So yun po yung structural molecules. And another one, of course, they serve as the hormones that regulates the activity of the cells. Another one, antibodies. Ano po, pag may protein tayo sa katawan, may antibodies tayo which is responsible for our immune system para hindi agad tayo madaling magkasakit. And enzymes. Ano ba ang enzymes? So it acts as the catalyst in biological systems. So ang enzyme, syempre, tumutulong yan para mas mapabilis yung chemical reaction sa katawan natin, especially na kumakain tayo ng iba't ibang klase ng pagkain. Alright, so what is DNA? So DNA, it means the deoxyribonucleic acid, and we also have this term RNA. Magkaiba ang DNA sa RNA. Ang DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, while the RNA, that's the ribonucleic acid, which ang DNA at ang RNA, they work together to produce proteins from genetic codes. So sila ang nagtatrabaho para makapag-produce sila ng proteins mula sa genetic codes natin. Ang genetic codes, saan ba ito makikita? Tayo kasi may kanya-kanya tayong genetic codes at nakikita ito sa ating mga DNA at RNA, which is made up of what we call the nucleotide bases that usually in tris or triplet that code for the amino acids making up the proteins. So ang DNA, ito ang itsura ng DNA. Ang shape niyan is double helix. Alright, so before we proceed, let us talk about the different types of the ribonucleic acids and their functions. So there are 3 types of RNA. Ano yung tatlong RNA na yon? So we have the mRNA, the rRNA, and the tRNA. Alright, so we have the first one, which is the mRNA or the messenger RNA. So ano ibig sabihin ng mRNA? The messenger RNA, so it transcribes the DNA nucleotide bases to the RNA nucleotide bases. Right? So siya yung parang kumbaga sa kaya nga 'di ba messenger, ibig sabihin siya yung nagdadala ng information, nagpapaliwanag ng information. Kumbaga parang inimik nito, isusulat naman nito. Parang ganun yung messenger. Siya yung taga hatid ng balita. Diba? Parang ganun ang nangyayari. And then we also have the rRNA or the ribosomal RNA, which binds the mRNA and the tRNA to ensure that codons are translated correctly. So, kung si messenger, siya yung nagbibitbit ng information, si ribosomal, siya naman yung nagbabind. Kailangan daw na tama. So, kailangan mag-combine si mRNA at saka yung pangatlo, which is si tRNA. Kasi, pag binind niyan ni ribosomal RNA, so, syempre, siya yung mag-i-ensure na dapat tama ang pagkakatranslate nito. And, of course, we also have the tRNA or the transfer RNA, which means that it translates the mRNA codons into the correct amino acids. So, kumbaga kung si messenger, siya lang yung taga-transcribe ng nucleotide bases papuntang RNA nucleotide bases, siya yung taga-transcribe, di ba messenger? Siya yung, again, si messenger, RNA, siya lang yung magta-transcribe from DNA nucleotide to RNA nucleotide. Si ribosomal, siya yung kailangan i-bind niya si mRNA at yung pangatlo na sa tRNA para tama daw yung pagkaka-translate. Ngayon, pagdating kay transfer, siya naman ngayon yung magta-translate. Kung kanina ay nucleotide to nucleotide lang pero DNA to RNA, pagdating kay transfer RNA, so yung mRNA, i-correct naman papunta sa amino acid. Okay, next. There are 2 stages of protein synthesis. And what are those 2? The first one is what we call the transcription, And the second one is what we call the translation. So, para mas maintindihan pa ninyo kung ano ba ang protein synthesis, which is yung main topic natin ngayon, so pag-usapan naman natin yung tinatawag natin na genetic code. Ano yung genetic code? Alright, so yung genetic code, di ba sabi ko sa inyo kanina, genetic codes are found in the DNA and RNA, which is made up of nucleotide bases, usually in trees. Triplet yan. Triplet that code for amino acids making up the proteins. Specifically, the DNA genetic codes have mRNA codon counterparts determined during the transcription. And there is this what we call the mRNA or the messenger RNA codon codes for specific amino acids. Makikita nyo dito sa table na to, the important codon. So, the start codons, so we have here the AUG, which starts the translation stage. And the stop codons, we have the UAG, UGA, and UAA, which means that stops the translation change. So, when the ribosome reads the start codon, AUG, so, ito yung magpe-present ng codons or the tRNA for translation stage to begin. Alright, so let us now discuss the process in protein synthesis. So first, I'll be showing you this figure. Alright, this figure shows the transcription. Alright, so this figure illustrates what we call transcription, which is the first phase in protein synthesis. Alright, so transcription, di ba parang sa transcription, kapag i-describe natin siya, parang sabing transcribe, parang kumbaga parang pag in-interview ka, tapos sinabi, i-transcribe mo, isusulat mo lahat ng napakinggan mo. So, parang ganun yung nangyayari sa first stage ng protein synthesis. There is, dadaan yan sa transcription stage. Alright, so ang tanong, what happens to the DNA during transcription? Alright, so sige nga, what happens to the DNA during transcription? A, the DNA unzips. Letter B, the DNA does not unzip. Okay, very good. So, first, syempre, ang nangyayari during DNA, during transcription, the DNA unzips. And then, tanong, which enzyme unzips the DNA? Is it the RNA polymerase or the mRNA or the messenger RNA? Of course, that is the RNA polymerase. Alright, and what happens? Ano na bang nangyayari after na yung DNA ay ma-unzip? Okay, very good. So, the mRNA, yan, itong messenger RNA, so, siya na ngayon ang may trabaho. Ang gagawin niya, kokopyahin niya ang mga DNA template. Alright, so again, what happens after the DNA is unzipped? The mRNA copies the DNA template. So, ang tanong, what are start codons for? Para saan yung mga start codon? Alright, yun po ay para sa transcription stage or the first stage of protein synthesis. And always remember that transcription occurs inside the nucleus. And it is the first step in gene expression. Alright? Again, that's the transcription. Yan ang kauna-unahang step in gene expression. And of course, always remember that in transcription stage of protein synthesis, the DNA unzips through the help of enzymes called the RNA polymerase, and they will combine nucleotides to form an RNA strand, which is using one of the DNA strands as a template. Alright, so next, I'll be showing you this figure that shows the mRNA exiting the nucleus. So you have to figure out, study this figure to help you answer the following questions. Sige nga, pag-aralan niyo yan. Alright, so let us have a question. So, why does the newly synthesized mRNA go out of the nucleus after transcription? A, the next phase in the protein synthesis occurs in the cytoplasm, or letter B, the nucleus cannot accommodate the newly synthesized mRNA. Alright, so the correct answer, that is letter A, the next phase in the protein synthesis occurs in the cytoplasm. Next, number 2, what happens after the mRNA goes out of the nucleus? Do you think the codons are translated to produce proteins, or the codons are transcribed from amino acids? Okay, that's correct. That's letter A. The codons are translated to produce proteins. So, lagi nyo tatandaan that for protein coding gene, the messenger RNA or the mRNA, so sila yung nagdadala ng information na kinakailangan para mabuo yung tinatawag natin na polypeptide. So, itong mRNA or the mRNA or the messenger RNA, ito naman yung RNA na nabubuo. Okay? So, again, the messenger RNA is the RNA form of the gene that leaves the nucleus through the nuclear pore and moves to the cytoplasm where the proteins are made. Saan nangyayari ang proteins? Yes, doon po sa tinatawag natin na cytoplasm. Alright? So, take note. Itong tatandaan ha. Transcription process, yung transcription, this is the process wherein yung DNA or yung deoxyribonucleic acid sequence of a gene is rewritten. So, parang isinusulat ulit siya using RNA nucleotides. Okay, now, let us take a look on the next stage, which is what we call the translation. Right? So, let us have the figure 3, which is the initiation stage of translation. So, again, this figure, so it depicts the initial stage in translation. Okay, which is the second phase of protein synthesis. Okay, so nasa second stage na tayo ha. Ano nga yung first stage? Transcription. Second stage, translation. Anong meron sa translation? Translation, this involves the complementary pairing of codons in the mRNA with anticodons in tRNA. So, di ba yung tatlo kanina natin? Di ba yung tatlo natin kanina? mRNA, di ba? Tapos meron pa tayo na rRNA and then tRNA. So dito, sa translation process, this involves the complementary pairing, nagkakaroon na ng partneran sa mga codons in the mRNA with anticodons in tRNA. The process that is facilitated by what we call the ribosome. So what are the two subunits of the ribosome? Okay, so we have the large subunit and the small subunit. Second question, what are the two sites in the large subunit of ribosome? So we have the P subunits and the A subunit. And which part of the large subunit of the ribosome accommodates the tRNA? Alright, so we have the large subunit. What do you call to the codes that are carried by the tRNA? Is it the anticodons or the codons? Alright, so we have the anticodons. Next question. Translation is the process where proteins are synthesized from the codes in the mRNA. So which molecule is carried by the tRNA and corresponds to the codons in mRNA? Is it amino acids or the glucose? The correct answer is, of course, the amino acid. Another question. So, why does complementary pairing of codons and anticodons occur during translation? Is it this ensures the amino acid carried by the tRNA corresponds to the codons, or letter B, the pairing allows anticodons to select the codons to be translated? Alright, the correct answer is letter A. This ensures that the amino acids carried by the tRNA corresponds to the codons. Okay, class. So, always remember that the second stage, ulitin natin ha. So, let us generalize what we have discussed in the previous minute of this lesson vlog. So, the second stage of protein synthesis is what we call translation. It is where the codes in the messenger RNA is translated to what we call the polypeptide that contains a specific series of amino acids. So, anong ginagawa ng amino acid? Amino acid bonds with each other to form the polypeptide which make up the protein. Now, let us take a look on the first stage of the translation, which is what we call initiation. So, di ba dun sa stage ng translation, yung ribosome, di ba nangyayari dyan? Nagsasandwich siya dun sa mRNA between the small and the large subunit to be translated. So, parang pinapalaman siya, no? And the first codon that will be read is the AUG, that is called the start codon, and consequently codes for the amino acid methionine. Alright, so let's proceed with the next stage. So are you familiar with the elongation? Elongation is the second stage of translation where the amino acid chain gets longer. Kaya nga, di ba, elongation. Kasi ito parang humahaba, pinapahaba niya ngayon. So, during the stage na to, messenger RNA, so it will read one codon at a time. Siyempre, isa-isa lang. Then, the amino acid corresponding each codon is added to a growing polypeptide chain. And always remember that the genetic codes are found in the DNA or RNA, which is made up of what we call the nucleotide bases, usually in triplets. Diba? Yung kanina natin paulit-ulit ng sinasabi. Triplets yan that code for the amino acid making up the proteins. So always remember that specifically the DNA genetic codes, they have the mRNA codon counterparts determined during the transcription. The mRNA codon codes for specific amino acids. At ito pa ang tatandaan. So, every time na ma-read or mababasa itong tinatawag na new codon, so it is each time a new codon is read, a matching transfer RNA gets into ribosomes carrying the anticodon and corresponding amino acids of the mRNA codon. These amino acids are connected with each other by peptide bonds, becoming what we call the polypeptide. So what happens during the elongation process? So during the elongation, transfer RNAs move through what we call the A and P sites of the ribosome. This process, so uulit-ulitin lang ito. Uulit-ulitin, this process repeats many times as new codons are translated and new amino acids are added to the polypeptide chain. Alright, question. When is translation terminated? Kailan nga ba na-terminate itong translation process? Alright, so the translation is terminated when the tRNA reach the stop codon. Alright, so another question. What is the product of translation phase? Is it the carbohydrate or the protein? Of course, letter B, the protein. Yan nga yung pinag-aaralan natin ngayon, di ba? So that's the topic that we are discussing, the protein synthesis. And of course, we have the last stage of translation, the termination. Okay. What is termination? So, termination, it is where the finished polypeptide is released. Yan, last stage na. So, it starts, paano nga ba? At kailan nag-starts ang termination process? So, it starts when a stop codon, ano ba yung mga stop codon? That's the UAG, the UAA, and the UGA. So, it starts when the stop codon is read by the ribosome, activating a series of events that stop translation and disassemble the subunits of ribosomal RNA. What else? The polypeptide produced in this stage will be processed further before it becomes a functional protein. Alright, so let us have a sort of quiz since you have accepted and conquered the DNA Amazing Challenge a while ago. So here are some of the enrichment activities for you to strengthen the basic concepts of what you have learned from our lesson vlog today and to validate your observation in our lesson. Alright, so I'll be posting here the choices for the questions that I'm going to ask. So, letter A, so we have amino acid, the protein, the DNA, mRNA, and the codons. So, tingnan nga natin kung alin sa mga choices na to ang binabanggit sa aking babanggitin na mga statement ngayon. Alright, so, what do we call they are the building blocks of proteins? That is, alright, correct. So that's amino acid. Alright, how about they are composed of amino acids linked together by peptide bonds? Okay, that's correct. That's proteins. Next, it is a double helical molecule that contains the genetic codes. Alright, that's correct. That's DNA, or the deoxyribonucleic acid. How about this one? It copies the DNA's codes. Okay, correct. That's the mRNA, or the messenger RNA. And lastly, we have this one, mRNA triplet of nucleotide bases that code for an amino acid. That is, alright, that's the codons. Alright, that's the end of our lesson vlog for today. So thank you so much for listening. I hope you learned something from this vlog. This is me once again, Teacher Tin, your science teacher for today. So kung bago ko pa lang sa channel na ito, huwag kalimutan mag-subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell for more updates in Science 10. So ngayon, kung meron kayong mga gusto pang i-vlog natin, may mga lesson kayo na gusto natin pag-usapan, so just leave your comment below, babasahin natin yan, pupusuin natin yan, and of course, i-discuss natin yan. So again, thank you so much for watching, and salamat sa mga subscribers ko na patuloy na sumusubaybay, nanonood, at natututo sa mga ipinopost nating video. So ipapangako ko, hindi ko pala ipapangako, so I'll try my very best para araw-araw, or hindi man araw-araw, pero regular na tayong makapag-post ng video tungkol sa science. So, ayun lang. Hanggang dito na lang at maraming salamat.